In the old system in China, they perceived the energy of the kidneys to hold our life force. You may wonder, after, when you read these things about the five elements and the yin and yang and all that good stuff, how they knew all these things way back then, perhaps like 5,000 years ago. And the one thing that you may want to ponder is that in the old days, how they perceive medicine, how they perceive the human system, they see it as a spiritual experience, an energetic experience, a wholeness to it. So a lot of the Taoists whom created this whole, pretty much like most of the Chinese herbal acupuncture and healing system, they were adventurers of consciousness, and through their deep state of meditation and experimentation, they figured out that beyond this space of the physical body and within it are much more to the human experience in terms of energy and in terms of consciousness. So they figured out through their meditation and through their experimentation this whole system of medicine that we inherited nowadays. So in a way, we're pretty lucky because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when you compare to that, with modern science, and the reason why every 3 years or so, modern science will come out and say that everything that we thought were true 3 years ago are not true. And you see this in every field, astrophysics and astronomy and all sorts of things, because in science, in allopathic medicine, we look from the outside inward. And that is not so accurate, because that get influenced and changed, and then there's some other special interest factors. But in the old days, many of these people basically sitting in the caves or in the monasteries or in an isolated place up in the mountains, and they study this process without any interest of thinking they're going to be in the world and make a ton of money, because there's not that much money to be made. And it's just more or less, in the old days, people see healing as a form of service to humanity and service to themselves in terms of helping to improve their karma. And so the intention and the idea of how these old herbal systems were created is very different from how everything is created nowadays. You have to understand that 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago, the first emperor of China wrote a book on herbology and Chinese medicine that are still taught, as a part of the school, in modern time. So true knowledge stands the test of time. So the energy of the kidneys holds our human life force. And that's the aspect of what we inherit from our parents. It's that state in a moment in time when we conceive and when we were conceived, when the sperm and the egg come together. And that life force at that moment, is the inheritance that we have. Whether our constitution is robust and strong and intelligent, or weak and intelligent or weak and not so intelligent. A lot of that is what we inherit in that initial meeting. And with that is kind of like, you're born with a certain amount of money. There's also an aspect of how much wisdom we have in spending it within our life. So to have a stronger body is not necessarily better, because many people do not have the wisdom of how to use their resources to make their body last. So, and on the other hand, those who are born with a little bit limited resources have a tendency to learn how to leverage what they have and how to enhance what they have so that they can last longer. So this life force that we have in our kidneys is a very important thing for us to preserve. And the Chinese see so much value in it that they list that as one of the 3 treasures. There's only 3 of the treasures in Chinese medicine. And this life force that they call Jing is one of them.